My name is Swami Durga. I'm the Executive Director of the Rive Fund, New York. Well, you know, another name, actually, a while ago they gave me another name for my Executive Director title. I was Director of Hawking and Schlepping. So I am the Executive Director, but basically putting together the Rive Fund from where it's come from to where it is today. Well, it's been an amazing journey, actually. So really, its inception and start from Majai, who lives in Florida and runs is the founder of Kashi Ashram and the Rive Fund in Florida. Started the Rive Fund about, I would say, probably about 1991 actually. It was the Rive Fund's inception in Florida. Kashi Ashram's been there, which is an interfaith center, spiritual center, was started in about 35 years ago. So the Rive Fund was started, Ma was invited actually to LA to work with people who were dying with HIV and AIDS. And so she was invited by one of her students to come to LA and actually guide them through the process of death and dying, which at that time there was really no venue for that kind of thing. So from there we started actually, someone in Florida, Bino, started the Rive Fund, as we'd go back in Florida and Ma would go there for weekends 4 times a year and do that. So Ma's really the founder and scepter of the Rive Fund, of really a service in our tradition. There's another word for whatever you put all the, like God and all that kind of stuff, is really service or to mankind. So the Rive Fund in New York started when I came back to New York. I came back to take care of my mom in '91, I think. So at that point I was working as a case manager for one of the AIDS centers here in Queens and for the GMHC Health Crisis Center in New York. And from that point we started a program called The Rounds, which really was basically visiting residential children and adults living with HIV and AIDS. So that's how really the Rive Fund started, really by basically bringing cookies to people who lived in residential healthcare facilities. That was the inception of the Rive Fund in New York. If I was really to say what our mission was, it's probably to feed everyone in all ways, spiritually, physically, mentally, and really to nurture people. You know, we have a tradition where it's whatever your belief system is, whatever it is, it's really, we have another name. Ma always says that another name for God is really kindness. So I think our mission really is kindness and really, you know, giving back to humanity and paying attention to humanity and what their needs are. And that's where I think the Rive Fund really has evolved from, you know, really baking, asking friends and my family to bake cookies and go and visit people, to the point now where last year we fed over, I think it was 96,000 people. I think the biggest challenge is actually, you know, effectiveness. I think it's really effectiveness, how to be effective in addressing someone's issues. I mean, obviously, you know, you have to start with food, I think, so on some levels. I mean, if someone's hungry, you can't address, if you ask, as Ma always says, if you ask someone, a mother, you know, well, do you need this or do you need that? Well, her children are hungry, you first have to feed somebody. So I think we started at really the food level of really addressing a need. And then from there, I think it really evolved into kind of, you know, what are the issues surrounding food insufficiency and funding and those kind of things. So, you know, as a small grassroots, we went into doing things like where we do the holidays and we do back to school programs, and we do, you know, winter coat drives, and then eventually we've become where we actually on site now do the food stamp program, the PAWS system, which is a food stamp program. So addressing more of the kind of underlying needs of those who we serve. We use the word clients, but it's always a funny word to me because I never think of anyone as a client. I mean, I think that's to be more of on the official, you know, in going out there and getting funding and stuff like that. We use clients, but they're really, you know, to us guests and people who we serve. I mean, you know, I've never set out. There was never a mission or a goal or set out. I just really wanted to give back. I think, you know, in what's in my core has to give back. I think it's just who and what I am and what I've, you know, in other words, kind of been guided to be. So I think it's really been building on what the needs are and then trying to look for them, and, you know, and through really great volunteers who really kind of, I think, come to us by their nature of their, you know, of their connection to wanting to give back. So I think it's really been a building process and trying to do really good business. We're very We do everything by the book. We're very, effective on that level. We do everything exactly by the book and trying to really build on that level. We are 12 months a year. We go through the year. We do mobile and we do on-site. And a lot of it, because of the space conditions, are outdoors. So we're there in the rain, the snow, the sleet. Last year, for instance, we did our mobile unit to Brooklyn, to under the boardwalk, and it was literally, there was a snowstorm that happened that night to that morning. Getting the van out was we didn't know if we could actually. It was that large of a storm, and we actually managed, the volunteers dug us out. We got there and we thought, well, no one will be there. And we went there, and there were probably over 150 kids waiting in the snow, which, tears at me a little bit, because it's not something I really want to do on that level, to make somebody wait in the cold. But I think it also addresses the thing of what a need is. And even for here in our program on site, I mean, that people will wade through the elements to actually, wait that long to be served, to get food, to get clothes. We do a varying amount of programs, but it is in the elements. So it's not something that, that element of it is not something I'm really enjoy. I mean, I don't mind doing it. I never complain, a little in the winter I complain, but I don't mind complaining about that. But it is not something, so I think that's where the reason of addressing a new facility, not only to eliminate that part of it, but also to address all the other programs that I think we could create and actually be more effective in addressing those issues that surround food insufficiency. I think there's something that really tears at your heart for children, and actually trying to improve their lives and actually add something that can actually make them have a fighting chance to survive in this world that is pretty intense. And I think we do programs like Shake, which is an exercise program. We do after school programs. We do a lunch meals program this summer, where there are some facilities that do it, but because of space we can't. But during the summer, meals are cut off for kids, and a lot of kids actually go without meals. So we could, we can get something like that up and running. We love to offer some yoga and meditation, and just really different things on how to deal with life and have some alternative methods, and also practical methods of how to address the hardships that are coming at people, especially children, though. I think it really would be our mission. We unfortunately have probably addressed every nook and cranny on our facility and put concrete and built it to the point where it is pretty much filled and saturated to where we are now. On one hand, it's shocking, and the other hand, it's overwhelming. I mean, the number that has increased here, but the need here has grown probably in the last 6 months, probably 25% of where we were last year, which has really pressed the walls of where we are, to both trying to get some additional funding and needed supplies. And we literally, with our food, on a weekly basis, run out of food. I mean, and we have some great donors, the food bank being one of them, which is a wonderful, incredible partner in City Harvest. But we, on a weekly level, kind of really tap what the product coming in. So we're always looking for other supply sources and for other funding, but then comes into the place as well space. Once we were great in partnering with the food bank for fresh produce, and we on a weekly basis probably bring in 30 to 40,000 pounds of produce that in one day we give out in both our mobile and on-site program. And that's been great, because we really do believe in nutrition training and things like that, for really to also implement some better eating habits and things like that, to try to move away from all the other kind of things that are not so healthy for you. The people who we really reach is really varied. It goes from people who are homeless, people with HIV and AIDS, and seniors, low-income seniors, and families, people who work, people who are not working. It really covers the gamut of people. I think, as most of us know, any of us, it is hard to stretch a dollar. I think you can have a full-time job, and it is difficult to keep rent and everything all together. Rents are really high in the city. So I think we really reach out to a varied, really from one end to the other end. And I think just because you have a job doesn't mean you can afford everything. I think a lot of families who have 2 and 3 kids and are working, one of the parents or both of the parents are working. If you've gone out, I don't know if you've been where you've gone. I just recently bought some formula and some diapers for a family. They couldn't afford it, so I went out and bought it personally. I was actually in shock. Now we do offer that. We try to get it at a price through the food bank and things. But I was actually in shock how much it cost me. I thought if I had 2 kids, I don't know how I'd afford this. It was actually nearly absurd to me that one thing of formula, Similac, or one of those products, was nearly $30, $40. So I think the stigma, unfortunately, people who use pantries, unfortunately, looks like it's someone who doesn't care or wants a free ride. I think that's not my take after seeing the people who come here. I think it's people who are struggling. I don't think they want a free ride. I think they're unfortunately pushed into a situation between rent and bills and food and schooling and all those kind of things, are pushed in a position that they just need a helping hand. It's not my place to go look. It's not my place to really judge anyone why they're here. If you're willing to wait on this line in sometimes really weather and conditions that are really not conducive, you're willing to wait here for an hour to 2 hours, I don't think you would be here. It's not like I'm giving out filet mignon. Although our product is really good, we give great stuff from great donors of Trader Joe's, Costco, and all that. I don't think you'd wait an hour and a half to wait on a line to get food if you could afford it. I mean, so I don't really think that's the case. I think it's people who are really being pressed to try to make ends meet, and actually not even make ends meet, actually provide a meal. For me, why you're here or how you got here, I want to address it only so I can better serve you. I don't really care how you got here or why you got here, but if you're willing to wait here, I want to help serve you. I mean, that's really the bottom line for me. Our on-site programs, we have a choice pantry, which actually is, it took us a little while for such a little space. It actually has been a great program that the food bank came in and they kind of trained us how to change over to choice pantry, which I think is actually brilliant. Because what happens is right now is a client would come in and they actually go through our line, and then they come up to where we have shelving where there are 4 units. It's basically protein, carbohydrates, liquid, and canned goods. And depending on your card and the size of your family is how much product you get to. So that way you have, usually we try to provide enough food for at least 3 to 4 days of 3 to 4 meals a day. So they've come in and they choose their food rather than me giving you a predestined kind of food bag that I would decide for you what you want to eat. You may not use white rice, you may use only brown rice, you may not eat pasta. And then culturally you need certain things, or if you're a senior and diabetic you can use low salt, so we try to address that here. And then from there they move around and they get snacks, and then they get produce, they get bread. We usually have weekly bread. And they get meats and fish, depending on cheese, depending on what's available for us. And then they go in like this week. We were great enough to have World Vision gave us wonderful toiletries like shampoos and conditioners and different things. And we also gave out vitamins that are from Nourish America, that we get monthly vitamins for kids and for men and for women. So that's our on-site program. And then it really varies depending what's available. This is a great spot or way to where everyone has a story. I think it's a great segue for that moment, because Ma was raised on the streets of Brooklyn in Coney Island. And she had 4 black people who actually, she's a white Jewish girl in the 50s, was raised. Really, her mom was wonderful, but she, had diabetes, was in a hospital, so she really didn't, mom really wasn't available like that. Her father was, was trying to get by and make it work. And she roamed the streets of Brooklyn under the boardwalk, and 4 black people, Chicky, Old Henry, and Hudson, and Shoes, really raised her, and they taught her what the streets were. And at that point, people lived under the boardwalk where the sand is now, where they filled it in. They used to roam and live and make fires in the big barrels and cook potatoes and do that kind of stuff. And they taught her what it meant to be on the street, and how they taught her what it meant to where everyone has a story. And one of the gentlemen who actually kind of guided her, he was very well spoken, educated, and his family had 2 kids, wife, and they were driving. He had his own business, driving in a truck one day, went to make a turn on Ocean Parkway, and a tractor trailer came in, hit the truck, killed his family. And from that point on, he just couldn't function. He couldn't find a place where to be, and he became, for lack of a better word, homeless or indigent, where he couldn't really put it back his life to begin. And always taught Ma that story, that everyone has a story.